On this episode of the Apple Watchers, will the iPhone no longer come with a charger? Is Apple Music causing excessive battery drain? Doctor claims Apple Watch detected an underlying heart condition other than AFib. Now you can shop with a specialist at an Apple retail store, and there's very strong rumors of a touchscreen iMac coming. All this, our picks, tips, and much more. This is episode number 30. Welcome to the Apple Watchers, a podcast covering all things Apple Watch and many things Apple. This episode and every episode is brought to you by me, Kevin Hare, and my co-host, Jonathan Zarko, aka JZ. All right, let's get started. Well, hello. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. Well, real quick, I just want to remind our listeners that the Apple Watchers podcast is on YouTube. All episodes are up there to listen to. So if you haven't checked it out and you prefer to listen on YouTube, it's there. So, John, the public betas for macOS, Big Sur, iOS 14, iPadOS 14, tvOS 14, and watchOS 7 came out on Thursday, July 9th. Are you doing any of them?
Yes, but not yet.
Okay.
So I'm planning on doing iPadOS and iOS.
Not watchOS.
Oh, well, I might do the watch too.
Although you would have to update your phone.
Yeah, no, I'm planning on doing that. So since I just changed jobs and stuff, I have another work phone. So I'm a little bit more free now with my personal device. So I'm going to try it. I just backed everything up. I just haven't gotten around to actually going through and getting the certificate and downloading everything and doing all this stuff. But I do want to try it. I have been seeing some other reviews from people saying that they feel like it's pretty stable. Again, if you have like a really important job or something that has a lot of use on your phone, you may not want to do that. Or if like your phone is your major source of internet connection, stuff like that, you may not want to. But I got options. So I think it'd be cool. And I can always revert back to the old version.
Yeah, I would say if it's your daily driver, it's not a good thing to do. I am not going to do it this time. By the time they release it, if it's still September, it'll be here before you know it.
That's true.
Time is going by so fast. So I'm going to wait for now.
You can live vicariously through me.
Yeah, you could keep us updated and let us know how it goes.
I'll set them up as soon as we finish recording here. So next week we should have some updates on that.
Cool. Well, speaking of devices, now you started a new job. How's that been going?
So it's been going cool. It's been really good. A new company is also another big company going to be working on making stuff for apps again. So similar work.
Cool.
But this time around,
you got some devices, right?
Yeah, they issued me a company phone and I got to choose. And so this time I opted for an Android device just so I could start to get more versed with them. And also, too, because the company I'm working for, they have a large international market, and Android is a much bigger international company or international operating system. So I was like, okay, if I get used to this, then I can also do testing and all these other things on an Android device. So yeah, I got a Pixel 4 for that, running just vanilla Android.
Cool. How you liking that?
I hate it. Nothing makes sense. I keep trying to, do Apple gestures on it and things like that, which aren't there. So, I mean, that's not necessarily their fault, but
right.
Things just don't seem as intuitive. It doesn't seem as polished. Like the fit and finish overall doesn't seem as nice. Feels a little bit more utilitarian than, I don't know. Apple just has like a certain level of refinement, I think, on their operating system that I like.
Yeah, design-wise, too, it's quite different because I owned a Android phone for a brief time, only like 4 or 5 days. But I was able to dig into it enough because I had read up on it beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Just the overall design of the operating system was not as clean and polished. And some people may not care. If given the option, it is something you look at every day.
Yeah.
When you're using the phone. And just one example out of many, but the difference in the app stores between Google and Apple, it's pretty miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Apple's app store is pretty beautiful, the stories and everything.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of good information too on the apps themselves. And it's only going to get better with this update that they're doing, where they're going to start putting in that little privacy nutrition facts thing. I don't know. It's fine. It's good. It's good that it makes me kind of separate my personal world from my professional world a little bit. I certainly use my phone a lot less, meaning my work phone, because I'm like, man, I don't need it. And, it just forces me to check my email and stuff on my desktop instead, or well, actually it's a laptop. So they did issue me a laptop and I was able to select the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is bomb. Thing is awesome.
Yeah.
The screen density is so good that I have been thinking about I'm considering upping the font size, like the overall, like going into the accessibility, because things are so small that I'm like, I feel like I can't see this. But at the same time, as a designer, I want to make sure that what I'm seeing is true size and stuff, so that I know what it's going to look like on other devices and for other people. So instead, I've just opted to move the computer a little closer to me. But if it still doesn't work, I might change. Thankfully, my secondary monitor, it's not as high resolution. So sometimes if I'm like getting eye fatigue because things are too small, I can shift over there and read things a little easier. It's just because I have like a keyboard in between them. So the screen is a little further away than if I were just typing directly on the laptop.
Yeah, I have the 13-inch MacBook Pro. And, I was afraid of downsizing because I had the old 15-inch. But it's been pretty good. I've had to increase the font size a little, but I also use an external monitor all the time, like a larger monitor. So
yeah, that helps a lot, I think. And again, if it's in my lap or I'm using it like an actual laptop where I'm typing on the physical keyboard, then it's okay. But when it's like on my desk and kind of pushed back because I have the bigger extended keyboard in between them, and then have everything else kind of going on my desk. Actually, right now I'll have up to 4 screens because I'll have the laptop, the external monitor, the iPad Pro doing sidecar, and then a portal device next to that, and it's just all connected.
Wow, that's quite a setup.
Yeah, I feel like I'm piloting a spaceship.
Well, you'll have to fill us in the future too, how you're liking that MacBook Pro 16-inch as you dive into it more.
I will.
Cool. Well, why don't we go ahead and start with some Apple Watch stories? You want to lead us off?
Yeah. So Apple Watch users will be able to run shortcuts on their device without a connected iPhone with watchOS 7. Shortcuts on Apple Watch promises to deliver powerful one-tap triggers for complex actions like running Apple Music playlists, controlling HomeKit appliances, requesting Siri processes, and more. The shortcut will be synced across iOS, iPadOS, and watchOS via iCloud. The new support also brings shortcuts to watch faces as dedicated complications.
This is cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. This is one of the first things I realized was an issue when I first got my Apple Watch, was that the shortcuts didn't sync over. And so I remember trying to yell a shortcut to my Apple Watch that was programmed on my phone, and Siri was like, I don't know what to do with this. So this is cool.
This will be cool. This actually made me think. I actually had a problem yesterday. I was in Target and I was with my fiance and we were trying to kind of be hands-free, and I was trying to call her with my watch, and it needed some kind of approval and it wanted like a shortcut. And I'm like, man, what is going on here?
Weird.
Yeah. I've had a lot of issues with all my devices, but yeah. And that was a pain because then I had to whip out the phone.
When you're doing the call, you have your Apple Watch has the cellular connectivity, right? Is that hooked up?
No, I actually canceled that, but it should still work. It
right.
should just make a call, but for some reason it wasn't.
I wonder if it has some weird, like, it's probably a permission thing to be like, okay, I'm not connected to cellular, so I need to connect to the phone to make the call. This is cool.
Yeah, actually, maybe that is the reason why. Maybe I'll have to reset it or something. As far as this story goes, this is cool because Apple keeps making the Apple Watch more independent from the iPhone. This is just another sign. So this is really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff.
And I'm glad it's going to sync via iCloud, so I don't have to do anything. I could just set one up on one device and it's now across all of them, which is great.
Yeah. So this next story, so we've talked about this website, kind of a website and magazine called Hodinkee. they've been a source of like analog watches, and now they're extending coverage to the Apple Watch, meaning that they will actually even be selling the Apple Watch. So they announced that they are becoming an authorized Apple Watch retailer, selling the latest Series 5 alongside a variety of popular analog watches. The company is also selling AirPods Pro, AirPods, and a slew of different Apple Watch bands and charging accessories. So this was kind of a big deal. It may make some of their hardcore fans a little upset. I know, we've talked about it in the past, even when they covered a story about Apple Watch and Johnny Ive, a lot of fans got really mad, or fans of Hodinkee, that is. So
yeah, I mean, it's just showing that the Apple Watch is being, viewed as a legitimate watch. And I think too, just with the popularity of it and the feature set of it, smartwatches aren't going anywhere. So I think we're going to start seeing more and more companies and organizations that cover analog watches starting to adopt that. I think this is also a signal that Apple is improving their customer relations in terms of working with other businesses to become authorized retailers. And so like it makes sense to, have a Series 5 and AirPods because like we had just mentioned, you can actually have it with the data connection or a cellular connection and then just have everything independent. You don't actually need a phone. So you could have your AirPods connected to that. So it makes sense that like the accessories that they're including work with the Series 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is pretty neat, pretty cool stuff.
All right, moving to the next one. While Apple claims that the Apple Watch is only capable of detecting atrial fibrillation, also known as AFib, one California doctor says that his Apple Watch helped detect underlying heart disease in himself. When working out on an elliptical machine, Donald W. Mullen experienced more shortness of breath than usual for a workout. He used the ECG function and observed an ST segment depression on tracing. He brought that information to a cardiologist where coronary artery disease was found, and he's now scheduled for a 5-vessel bypass and aortic valve replacement July 13th. So tomorrow, as of this recording.
Yeah, wow. Well, I wish him luck. I hope everything goes well. And that's amazing, though. That's really wild.
Yeah, I mean, for the general person, you may not be able to actually understand exactly what you were looking at with that ECG function, and so you may want to just take it back. But the story, when I was reading, it gets a little bit more in depth and talks about how he like also took it to his primary care physician and showed them because his heart rate returned to normal. And so if he didn't have the recording to show like, see, there's something weird going on, it would have been harder for them to diagnose and find it. So helps that he could kind of translate his own ECG. But yeah, super cool.
Very cool. So we have another story about the Apple Watch kind of helping someone, may have saved this guy's life. So a 92-year-old retired Nebraska farmer is crediting the Apple Watch fall detection feature with saving his life after a 21-foot fall. So the farmer had been climbing the ladder to secure a grain bin from pigeons when a hard wind gust had pushed and sent him falling 21 feet to the ground. After he hit the ground, he said he attempted to use Hey Sally on his Apple Watch. But by the time he activated the digital assistant, first responders from the Grant Volunteer Fire Department had already been alerted to the fall, which details his current location. The retired farmer is now recovering from a broken hip and other injuries at the Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Wow.
That is awesome.
I mean, I've known of like 92-year-olds that just fall down from standing up and that's it.
Sure.
This guy fell 21 feet. And it's cool that his watch was already, sending people to help him out. So
you don't really think about it, that fall detection on how it works sometimes. Cause obviously like him, I would be inclined to try to use Hey Siri. And then if it wasn't working, like, oh my God, my watch isn't working. I just activated it, by the way.
Remember
it's
Sally
now. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's working now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quiet over there.
Good job, Sally.
Yeah. I got to stop saying the actual word and use Sally. Thank you very much. Yeah. Very cool story. So it's cool that it just alerts emergency services on its own.
Yeah. Automatic. So if we move on now from Apple Watch stories to just some general Apple stories, Apple Card has a new web portal that'll let you pay your balance on a computer or an iPad. So they just launched this web portal, giving you a way to pay your balance even if you don't have access to your phone or you've lost it. The portal also shows your available credit and lets you download previous statements as PDFs. Further, it gives you a quick way to set up and schedule payments, to link to or remove connected bank accounts, as well as contact support. So I think this is smart. I mean, before, it's cool and convenient that you can access all the information from Wallet, but as an actual like financial institution, you need to be able to access it on a computer. You don't want to have to like jump to your phone all the time. So I think that this is a smart transition piece for the Apple Card.
For sure. I've definitely, because I have the Apple Card, I've come into instances where I might want to check it, on my computer. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's just on my phone. So it is handy, it's good that they did that. Moving on, I don't know if you heard about this, but some people are claiming that Apple Music is eating up their battery.
Oh no.
So many iPhone owners that are running iOS 13.5.1 and iOS 13.4.1 claim background activity from Apple Music is sucking up a significant amount of power, resulting in battery usage in the upwards of 50% in some cases. So one user on Apple's support communities posted a screenshot of their phone's battery usage showing a large spike in recent background activity, with Apple Music responsible for sucking up 53% in one day.
Wow.
So the kicker, that user claimed they had never opened Apple Music that day. The current theory behind Apple Music's unusual battery drain is recent changes in iOS and Apple Music are causing the app to constantly ping Apple servers while also trying to download content in the background. So for any people who think they may be suffering from excessive battery drain caused by Apple Music, there are a number of troubleshooting options that you might want to try. So the first thing is to force quit Apple Music, then delete Apple Music, and then reinstall it. And then simply try restarting your iPhone. You could also disable automatic download from the iPhone settings menu, disabling background app refresh, canceling all downloads in your Apple Music library, and in extreme cases, some users have tried factory resetting their phone. But if you do this, you'll want to make sure you back up all of your data first.
Yeah, I think the most effective options for this would be to disable or restart the app or disable the automatic downloads in the iPhone settings. The only problem is then you're going to have to manually go and do your updates and stuff too. So that's not as convenient.
I was going to say I use Apple Music. My fiance does as well. We haven't had any issues on our phone. Now, my iPad might be another story. I don't know. I feel like the battery has been draining like crazy. That's even on airplane mode, which doesn't seem to make sense at all because it shouldn't be pinging anything in airplane mode. But the past 2 days, my iPad's been draining like crazy. But I actually haven't went in and checked the battery usage yet, so I'll have to do that.
Well,
so
hopefully this gets figured out. I'm sure it's just there's probably some kind of a setting or something. They'll probably end up pushing an update soon that'll take care of most of that. Because that's 53% background battery drain when you haven't even opened the app. That thing is pretty bad.
Yeah, that is nuts. That is crazy.
All right. Well, Apple is now allowing customers to book one-on-one appointments with specialists at its Apple retail locations. Due to the pandemic, Apple stores have occupancy restrictions. So instead of waiting in line, customers can book a 15-minute time slot to shop with a specialist. Customers will still be required to wear a mask and have their temperatures checked.
Yeah, this is interesting. An interesting approach. I guess you still wouldn't be close to that representative at the store, because when I first heard this story, I was like, okay, so you're going to just go shopping with another person that you don't know.
I wonder, they're probably able to just kind of keep 5 to 6 feet distance. Everybody's wearing masks. They're also checking you. So there's a little bit less, possibility of transmission. And I think too, when you do the one-on-one, it's easier to kind of get in and out. So you talk to the person, say like, hey, what are you interested in getting? And they're able to kind of help you walk through that and then just kind of in, out, get your transaction going, move forward. This is essentially like pickup from Apple, right? Instead of going to the Habit or whatever and picking up your food to go, you're kind of doing the same thing where you just like, okay, I need a MacBook Pro. Thanks.
Yeah. And by the way, a lot of Apple retail stores are shutting down. So obviously you'll find out if you try to book one of these appointments with a specialist, you'll find out. But definitely if you plan on even going to an Apple store and potentially waiting in line, you're definitely going to want to check your location, because a lot of locations at the time of this recording, I think here in the States, like 72 locations, something like that. But it's going to change day to day. So a lot of cases of COVID-19, spiking here in the United States right now. So definitely check before you go. Moving on, Apple has updated its free macOS and iOS productivity suite, iWork, to version 10.1, bringing new features. So the enhancements include support for video embeds from major hosting sites like YouTube and Vimeo right within Pages or Numbers documents. Some country regions might not be supported. You can import to iBooks Author to work in Pages. There's new functions in Numbers, including XLOOKUP, XMatch, and regex. They let you match patterns, multiple text, and create flexible formulas. Keynote was updated to use a new Play Slideshow in Window option to have access to other applications while presenting locally or via video conferencing, and received an enhancement to allow movies to play through slide transitions. Pages, Numbers, and Keynote also got the ability to easily add captions and titles to images, videos, shapes, and other objects.
These are cool enhancements, particularly for me. I'm a big Keynote user, and so the being able to play the slideshow in a window is actually really big, because normally you go into presentation mode and it just takes over your entire screen. Or even if you have double screen, then you'll have one thing that shows what the presentation is, and you have another screen that's kind of showing you like your presenter notes and stuff. But sometimes you need to transition to a prototype or open up an audio file that you can play, or just do other things. And so being able to have that open at the same time is really good. And then also this whole being able to play a movie through slide transitions is awesome, because now you can actually have the video just playing. And if you have to make notes to come up at certain times, you can do that before you have to kind of time it so that they like turn on at the right time. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. But I got to ask you, when are they going to add the features we need to actually use Pages for our podcast document?
Yeah.
We're still using Google Docs because it has the features that we need, and I've tried, because then this whole podcast could be done on Apple products and, apps. Man, it's just lacking some other features. This is really cool, but yeah, I would definitely like them to get a little deeper with Pages and Numbers and Keynote, and, try to take on the whole Google Docs suite.
The collaboration tools is the big issue, and they need to get that better.
Definitely.
Maybe soon, hopefully.
Have you seen this? There's a new Apple Watch band that does gestures. It's made by a company, I think, called Mudra or Mudra. Who knows? It's very interesting. So this watch band enables you to do gestures with your fingers. Stuff like that. So you can use like your thumb, your index finger, and you could even shake your hand to control the Apple Watch.
Yeah. So this is the one where you could tap on, instead of tapping on the actual Apple Watch, the band is registering what your hand is doing. And in their demo video, they were showing like a phone call come up, and instead of tapping on the watch to answer it, the user just kind of tapped their thumb and their index finger together. Or if they wanted to reject the call, then they would tap their thumb and their middle finger. So I think this is super cool. This is something we had kind of talked about before that I thought might have been a possibility when we were seeing some of the patents that Apple was getting granted about energy pass through from the watch to the band, as well as just like interface controls. So I think it's cool somebody else has already started it.
Yeah, this is cool. It definitely, I love the videos that they show. We'll have a link, of course, in the show notes so people could check it out. But the videos are pretty priceless, Yeah. The guy not able to answer his phone. It looks like he's totally suffering.
No.
It is sort of a pain when you're kind of, washing your hands or brushing your teeth, and you literally can't touch your watch. So this would be cool. But in watching those videos, you can see where a lot would go wrong as well. Maybe setting it off by accident.
Yeah, you could get those false inputs.
I hope that Apple has seen this and maybe they're working on something like this, but preferably not a watch band, by the way, too. Something that would just be in the watch itself, because we all have quite a collection, or some of us have quite a collection of Apple Watch bands. Mine is even small compared to some people's standards.
That's true.
But yeah, so hopefully it'll be in the watch, which maybe could be possible. I mean, I think there was an Android phone. I don't even remember if it was the Pixel or not. Maybe you'll have to check that out. But there was actual gestures that you can do.
Oh, interesting. I know there was I thought there was an old Samsung where you could put your hand over the screen and not actually touch it to do gestures. So I'll have to dive deeper into it.
Yeah, get into that Pixel.
Do you think that this new band charges separately, or do you think that it still charges through the device itself? I didn't remember seeing any information on it.
Yeah, I didn't see any information either. I don't know. I mean, I would hope that it kind of charges separately, right?
Well, it would be convenient if I could keep it all together and I just put it onto its charging base and then it charges everything.
Oh, right.
But if I have to plug in my watch and then also plug in the band, that might be a little, a little extra. And then this is a Kickstarter that's going on right now. And so at the time of our recording, there were still a couple slots left where you get it on sale for $140, but they're saying that their MSRP is going to be $250. So would you pay $140 or even $250 for this kind of functionality?
No, I would not. I think you texted me if it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Maybe $99, something like that. If any listeners end up buying it, write to us on Twitter or Facebook Messenger. Let us know what you think about it. I'm not pulling the trigger on this.
I think I'm going to pass as well, but I'm interested. I like where the technology is going. I want Apple to do it. And I think you have a good point about wanting to be able to keep your bands. So if they could have it actually integrated into the actual housing, it's just a series of sensors. Although I don't know if there's enough muscles up at the top to dictate, which fingers are being manipulated or what's going on there. So we'll see.
I would hope that they implement it a different way than this watch band, but it's neat technology. So John, have you heard about this? There's rumors from Ming-Chi Kuo that earbuds and charger will not be included in the iPhone 12 box.
Wow.
Apple wants to slim down their packaging for the upcoming iPhone line. So analyst Ming-Chi Kuo previously said that Apple will no longer include wired earbuds with the iPhone 12, and he also expects the power adapter to now be sold separately too. In an attempt to keep selling the iPhone 12 at a similar price as the iPhone 11, Apple will offset the cost of the 5G network components by removing inbox accessories. The smaller packaging will also presumably help lower Apple's freight cost and reduce e-waste. It's not clear if the Lightning cable is still included. For comparison to Apple's other products, the Series 3 Apple Watch includes the magnetic charging cable, but does not include the wall plug and the power adapter. The analyst believes Apple is discontinuing both the current 5-watt and 18-watt chargers in favor of the new 20-watt model to be sold separately. Kuo thinks Apple will continue to bundle the power adapter with the iPad. This is interesting. I would like to see them have the option of purchasing like the 20-watt adapter or wall plug as an option when you're purchasing a phone. Like I'm on the upgrade program, but I would like them to have the option as a way to kind of mitigate this situation.
Yeah.
And maybe at a discount, at least, not the full blown, like, I don't know how much they are, like $30 or.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I would imagine that they would. So I think it's smart for them to, start to think about, okay, let's remove this so we can make the packaging smaller. People have it, right? It's going to remove a lot of e-waste, which is good. But there are going to be people who are buying this product for the first time. And so they may need it to be bundled. And so I imagine maybe it's only an extra $25 or an extra $20 to get the full bundle. I do have a theory on this, though. I think the iPhone 12 is going to switch to USB-C from Lightning. And I think that that's going to be part of the way that they're able to justify it, in that a lot of other people have already started collecting other devices that are USB-C. And so you'll be able to just have a charger and that you use for other things and include it. The iPad Pro is currently USB-C, and the cord that it comes with is just USB-C on both sides, and it plugs into a wall adapter that has, a female for USB-C as well. So I could see them switching over the 12 and kind of just killing the Lightning cable and being able to use that as justification for it. I also think that they'll probably do that for the standard 12, but I bet the Pro will still come with a charger. And that'll be part of the way that they also help kind of justify the more expensive price tag.
When I first saw it, I was a bit in shock, but I could kind of understand too, because a lot of us who have been using iPhones for years, we have a lot of extra chargers and extra cords. So there is a lot of e-waste happening.
Yeah, I have quite a few that are brand new, including headphones, like the wired earbuds. I think I have 4 pair that have just not been opened.
Interesting.
I didn't need them. I just, every year I get an upgrade. They give me a brand new one. When I would turn in the old phone with the upgrades, at least through T-Mobile, they just want the phone back. They don't want the charger and they don't want the headphones and stuff. So I would just give them the phone, and then they would give me a new box that has all of that stuff in it again.
That's the same thing with the Apple upgrade program as well, as they don't ask for any of that back. Yeah, and I have a few wired earbuds. I have the 3.5 millimeter jack, which comes in handy sometimes for other devices than my iPhone. And then I have the Lightning earbuds.
Yeah.
The ones with the Lightning connector. So I'm set, as long as, those end up lasting me years because I barely use them. But I have extra chargers around.
Especially now with my new setup that I have the iPad there, and the Pixel phone is also USB-C. So like I was actually noticing this. I go, I think I can just alternate these. I could probably use the iPad charger to charge the phone, because I'm imagining it's going to be a better wattage and wouldn't hurt it, versus I think putting in the phone one into the iPad might not have enough wattage. It might drain or charge too slow. But I could see Apple doing this. I think they'll still include the cords. It's kind of an opportunity for them to sell more dongles if they want to do that. But I could see them switching to USB-C, including the cord, and then selling some kind of an adapter that goes from USB-C to USB-A, which is the standard USB, or the old style, so that you could use your old wall chargers and stuff like that. But if you have like a new Mac, right? If you go to the Apple Store and you decide to buy a computer or a laptop and a phone, you already need an adapter to be able to charge it. So if they switch the phone to USB-C and they just include a USB-C wire, you're now golden. I think that what they should do, though, is instead make an adapter that just has multiple USB-C like inputs. So you could have one thing plugged into the wall and just have multiple cords coming out of it. That I could see.
That'd be interesting. There was also rumors that they're already going to get rid of the charging port altogether, which I hope is not true. I'm not ready yet. But USB-C would be good, on the iPhone. I mean, it's kind of been pretty much the standard for all Android phones.
Yeah. I think if they do that, if they go to USB-C, they'll still have the inductive charging. That's their ultimate end game. I think is to just get rid of all ports on the phone entirely. But we could see them remove the chargers, actually re-release the AirPower mat that they had canceled before, and then by not including the chargers, they're encouraging people to find alternate ways of charging it, right? Whether it's plugging it into your computer or getting one of these other inductive chargers. And then eventually that becomes their end game, where they just don't include cords at all, and the thing just charges on a plate. And you either sell people a new plate or you can buy a third-party one. I think that's where we're going. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the iPhone 14 is completely portless.
Maybe I'll be ready. Maybe by then.
We'll bring you.
We'll see.
Join me in the future, Kevin. Speaking of the future, did you see this? There's an Apple patent that hints at a touchscreen iMac with a display that has a vertical and a horizontal position. So they were granted a patent for transitioning between modes of input, and that is between a mouse keyboard combo and a touchscreen. The tech giant's idea is that the all-in-one would have an accelerometer, and that when you moved it, you could pull it into a horizontal position. At that point, it would enter touchscreen mode. If you raise the screen back to the traditional iMac position, it would then enter keyboard mouse touchpad mode. So this was really similar to something we were talking about last week or last podcast, where I was like, this is the touchscreen that I want. I want to be able to pull it into me. And then all of a sudden we get this pad. This is amazing.
I saw this story and I was like, wow, this is exactly what we were talking about. Yeah. Because I also mentioned that on a regular desktop, like let's say the current iMac or any, previous iMac, is they've done testing and had people, try to touch a screen across a table, your desk rather.
Mm-hmm.
And your arm is naturally going to get tired. It just doesn't lend itself well to touch screen. And even on a laptop, when you think about it, if the laptop doesn't fold over into like a tablet mode, then it kind of doesn't work well. So this would be amazing. And we, of course, will have a link in the show notes for this, and people should check it out because the drawing that they show, it looks like it would work perfect, like the way you were saying, where it's a desktop and then it comes down into kind of a slanted,
like a drawing board.
Yeah, like a drawing board. I mean, this would be amazing. And I really believe now that they are going to do this, because we don't cover a lot of, rumors, but this one I felt like it was important because we also mentioned on the previous episode that iOS apps are coming to the Mac.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason. And I think this is the reason.
So I think this may be the first computer that Apple releases with their new silicon, because it's going to be made to really be like, it's the marriage of all the worlds. You have the touch interface. It's going to look like an iPad, right? It's going to slide down. And I think we kind of got a view of how that stand is going to work in that XDR stand that they made, right? The $1,000 stand that everybody was thinking was all ridiculous and stuff like that. Like, it has some really interesting engineering in it, in that you can just move things around and it stays exactly where it is. So I could see them either building off of that, or by researching a way to be able to do this type of a display that comes down and at an angle, they were able to find efficiencies to be able to make the XDR display be able to work the way that it does. So I see the connections. I'm super excited about this. My question to you, do you think that the touch mode would support the Apple Pencil?
Yes. It would be crazy not to.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that would be nuts.
Especially with the new feature that they added to iPadOS, where you can just start writing and it automatically makes your text into type.
Yeah, this would be amazing. And I mean, I hope they do it soon, maybe this year. And I hope this also opens up the doors for a touchscreen laptop, but specifically something that folds over. I'm sure they would be worried about killing the iPad, but if they had some, some of the, like the iPad Pro is getting pretty expensive.
It is.
So if they had maybe a lower priced, Mac, like a even lower price than the MacBook Air, that might be something, but we'll see. I hope they do laptops too.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I'm very sure that a touchscreen Mac is on the way.
I think so too. There's definitely a question about cannibalization that could happen if they did the laptop with it, but I think it's time. And I think I could find a use case where you have them kind of flip around. The thing is, you'll just really have to worry about weight, because like the 13-inch might be a little smaller and better right now, but that 16 inches, it's got a little heft on it. And so if I were carrying it around the same way that I was carrying around this iPad Pro even, it might be kind of heavy and a little bit more difficult to actually work on. But if they can start like maybe marrying the Air, I could see them potentially killing off the iPad Pro and the Air and kind of merging them into a hybrid product. Be really interesting.
This would be amazing. Anyways, moving on now, we're not going to read this story, but it was really cool. I don't know if you've seen this. A website called BGR, they released an article that's like a massive list of every single new feature in iOS 14. So if we didn't cover everything that was mentioned, and it was very tough to cover everything that was mentioned at
Apple didn't even cover everything. Like,
oh no, yeah, they never do. It's impossible. But this is a really cool article, so we'll have it in the show notes for anyone who wants to read that. It's really cool, though.
Nice.
Well, why don't we move on to our picks or tips, and maybe you want to go first. What do you have a pick or tip?
I got a tip, and this is not a big groundbreaking one, but for people who maybe are new to the Apple Watch or who just really didn't get into a lot of the settings, you can actually change the wrist rise action on your Apple Watch. So in the Apple Watch settings menu, you can turn on wrist raise feature, and below you'll have a couple of options on the on-screen rise. You can show the last app. So you can either choose to show the last app that you were in the last session within the last few minutes of use, or within an hour of use, or always. And that way, when you raise your wrist, whatever you were using before is the thing that comes up. I think this automatically happens regardless of the features that you have on your watch setup for any activity that you have going. But you can basically have that same kind of functionality extend to other apps that are running. So, for example, if you have I have the stargazing app, right? And I want to know, where the International Space Station is if I'm out hiking or something. If that's the last app that I had up on my watch, and then I put my wrist down and I'm walking around, if it's been a few minutes, when I go to look at my wrist again, I'm going to get my normal screen. But I can actually set it up with this feature to pull up that previous app. So if you find yourself consistently having to raise your wrist and then tap into an app that you're using again, just check out that settings for the wrist raise action and set it to one of the settings to be the last app that you were using.
Cool. That's a good tip. Awesome. Well, I actually have a tip as well, and this is more for the iPhone. So I kind of assumed that there was something like this, but didn't really realize, and I stumbled on an article. But, if you found a lost iPhone, how would you get it back to the owner? So you can actually use Siri to do that. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you stumble on a lost iPhone or iPad, you want to safely return it to the owner as quickly as possible. But how do you find out who it belongs to? Well, you can ask Sally, whose phone is this? Assuming the owner has saved their details correctly, and you'll see their name, address, and telephone number. If that fails, you can try some other request. For instance, you can ask Sally to call mom, call dad, and that will put you in touch with their parents, the owner's parents. You can also try requests like call my wife or call my son. If that doesn't work, well, okay, let me explain. In order for this to work, because you should set this up on your phone if you haven't done it already, or your iPad, is make a profile for yourself, like a contact. And then you can put in there your wife and put their contact. You can put your dad, your mom, etc. I did it a long time ago. It also makes it easy if you want Sally to call your mom or dad, by the way. Works that way too. So the way to do that, if you haven't done it already, is open the Settings app, tap Contacts, tap My Info, and then select your name in the contacts list.
I'm actually surprised that Apple hasn't created another way to do this where you just be like, hey, Sally, I found you. And you're able to set up like a recontact me page that shows up that shows like, if found, please call this number or email me at this. And like maybe even allows you to do it directly on the device.
Yeah, because that's actually a really good idea, because a lot of people don't want to do that last step that I said where you set up your own contact, because it could be a privacy issue, because someone can pick up your phone and hold the side button or, home button if you have an older phone and call your mom or dad. or your wife. And so it is slightly a privacy issue. So actually your idea is a great idea. They should enable something where you don't have to set up your own contact like this.
Yeah, you could even do a thing where it goes like, it generates its own email automatically, and it just asks you to input in like your own contact information. So if you say, "Hey Sally, I found you," you get a button to email the owner, and you email it just says, "Give your information so the owner can contact you to get their phone back." And you just put in your email address or your phone number, however you want to be contacted. And then eventually that person reaches out to you and you are able to return the device.
Yeah, that would be cool. A few more things that I left out is if you don't get anywhere with Sally, right? If you've tried all the call mom, call dad and all that, be sure to leave the device on and be on the lookout for Find My messages that appear in the lock screen. The owner may send an alert to the device that includes contact details.
Yeah.
And then as a last resort, if none of those work, you could contact the owner's carrier, which should be able to help. The name of the carrier will be displayed on the top left corner of the screen if the device has a cellular connection. I thought this was kind of neat because it seems kind of obvious. I tried it too. I asked my phone, who does this phone belongs to, and my info came up.
Nice.
Well, everyone be safe and be healthy, and we'll talk to you in a few weeks. Well, that's it for this episode of the Apple Watchers. Read all the stories we've covered and more stories on Flipboard, a link provided in the show notes. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Apple Watchers Podcast and on Twitter at Watchers Tweet. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can ask your smart speaker to play the Apple Watchers Podcast. You can also listen on YouTube, a link provided in the show notes. Please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen, and thank you for listening. Until the next episode, I hope the only complications in your life are the ones on the face of your Apple Watch.